Hello, everyone, and welcome to our summer edition of our Fireside chat series. This edition will feature Don Charbonnet, owner of Charbonnet Consulting LLC, and our own Adam Kropf, our Senior Director of Products at Texada. I'm Matt Harris, the CEO of Texada Software, and we have a great session in store for everybody today. We'll delve into some of the greatest and latest trends and emerging solutions in the equipment rental industry, touching on one of our favorite topics around how technology is playing a role in equipment rental businesses. And we'll also talk about how we see rental businesses transforming themselves and exploring new business lines. A bit about our speakers, and I'm the host of today's event, but the real experts are Don and Adam. Don Charbonnet has 50 years of experience in the equipment rental industry, is a seasoned expert and the owner of Charbonnet Consulting. He has a stellar reputation for growing and successfully selling rental businesses, making him a valuable resource for rental industry strategies and business owners in general. And Adam Kropf is the product innovation expert at Texada, specializing in creating our SaaS solutions for the rental industry. His deep understanding of product management and customer engagement and many other things has led to significant advancements in rental technology. And he often speaks to audiences about the adoption of technology in rental businesses. So with these two experts with me here, I'll be asking them some questions about the state of the industry right now, what's happening now, what's happening in the future. And if you have any questions, please drop them into the comments section of this LinkedIn Live forum, and we'll try to get to them along the way. And so here we go. I'll start off with a few questions around just the general state of the industry, and we'll start with Don. Don, when you think about the rental industry today, what are some of the biggest challenges currently facing equipment rental companies, and how should they go about overcoming those challenges?
Well, I think that I see two challenges ahead of the industry right now. Number one is labor, and the biggest one being technicians. They're very hard to find. They've got to be very diversified in their knowledge of all types of equipment, as we all know. I would almost anticipate that some of the larger companies would start some type of training school, some apprentice, to get younger people involved in this trade. They can make great money. The benefits with these companies are great, but I've seen companies buy other companies just to get their people, because there's such a shortage of technicians and drivers and people who, although the industry is so big, still don't know much about the equipment rental industry. Another thought that comes to mind, and I think it's hitting right now pretty hard, is a lot of iron out there right now. And what I'm really fearful of is that when there's a lot of iron on the yard, that affects rental rates. And that I'm hoping, with the cost of equipment as expensive as it is right now, that they don't start some rate wars along the way just to get their product out of the yard. That happened many years ago, and it's not good for the industry, because once you drop a price, it's very hard to get it back up again.
Yeah, price wars can really rip a lot
Those
of
are the two biggest challenges that I see.
Yeah, thank you, Don. And as I was saying, as you were saying, price wars can certainly rip a lot out of the industry. As you work a lot with equipment owners and rental owners on improving their businesses and helping them sell their businesses. Part of that, I'm sure, includes helping them become more operationally efficient. What are some of the things, some practices that you've seen that help rental companies become more efficient in particular?
I would say, technology obviously is the biggest thing that has helped this industry grow. From the computerization that started decades and decades ago, you couldn't run 100 stores with manual systems like we did in the old days, quite frankly. And I believe that the equipment being smarter now also is a huge help in efficiencies. Uh, the fact that if somebody can log on to a piece of equipment from the shop and see what's wrong with it, and you go out and service it with the right parts instead of going out to diagnose and then having to go back to the shop, get the parts, and then go back, that they come more prepared, for the road mechanics to be able to get the customer up and running. Let's face it, the efficiencies is that the sooner you can, everything's going to break from time to time. And the sooner that you can get that equipment back up and running, you're going to keep that customer. I used to say that, treat a service call like a medical emergency. I don't care what's going on in the shop. Everybody drops what they're doing. Get out to the job site and show that foreman that you're out there addressing the problem. Because if he comes up and there's 6 guys standing around a hole, he's not going to be happy. So, they've outsourced a lot of hydraulic line companies, independent companies that can go out and fix hydraulic lines for you and things like that. But I think those are the efficiencies. To me, it's all about service. If you can't get that equipment back up and running again, you're going to lose that customer.
Right. No, thank you, Don. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, for the equipment to be utilized, it has to be up and running, and so that's a good thought on if the equipment's down, getting parts there as quickly as possible, and have them at the forefront, even pre-staged for repair, makes a ton of sense. I think you also mentioned computerization or digitization, which is a good transition now into Adam. Adam, Don mentioned some areas that are, clear problems. It's equipment uptime, it's access to, trained technicians. When you look at the industry problems overall, what role will digitization and digital transformation play in the future of equipment rental companies in the industry overall? And what are some key technologies that you think rental companies should be looking at?
Yeah, I think the big one that Don mentioned around like customers rent from you because they want operating equipment, they want it to be available when they're working. And a big part of that is the service side, but the better your inspection program is for turnovers to make sure, hey, this is actually something that's not going to be dead on arrival. It has good maintenance records in advance. It's been tested. It's been inspected before it goes out is such a big way to make sure that you have to send fewer technicians, as Don mentioned as well. They're very expensive and very specialized. So making sure that it's all good on when it arrives on the job site so it can do its job. I'd say the other big one is more and more companies, they're leveraging more business intelligence tools. So better dashboards, better understanding of what's going on in their business so that they can actually be able to spot trends before it becomes a problem. So Don mentioned about like rate wars, understanding what is our discounting procedure right now, how much are we discounting, how much more money could we have made if we didn't do some of those discounts, and really keeping a pulse on what's going on in the business, be able to spot your outliers. One of our customers was mapping all of their invoice data, and they realized that they were getting a lot of business out of this other area. They didn't have a salesperson in that specific region. They were just kind of picking up the fringes, but they kept pulling them further west. So they put a salesperson in that region, and about 18 months later, they actually opened up another branch there because they're able to see, hey, we're getting a lot of business here. And you don't get that information from an Excel report, right? You don't know exactly what's happening until you look at it in a visualized way, and they're able to see a lot of opportunity in that area, and they're able to leverage it.
So yeah, clever use of data in an important way to help understand, where new business is coming from is I think really important, Adam. That makes a ton of sense. Let me ask you another thing, and I think you've spoken on this topic previously. There's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence right now, and what all it can enable for us, for the world at large, and how it can help. Where do you think the role? What's the role of artificial intelligence in equipment rental? And are there some use cases that you find particularly interesting, and that you yourself are exploring or experimenting with?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest areas is around that damage detection and being able to do that at a more automated scale. So We're working with customers who are actually using AI to scan hundreds of thousands of reports every month to see, okay, what kind of damage was created by customers, and getting that billed right away, as opposed to it gets back to the shop or back to the yard. It sits in a pile in the yard somewhere. 3 days later, somebody does the inspection and say, hey, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, you damaged our piece of equipment. The likelihood you're going to be able to collect on that is very unlikely. And the customer experience is like, hey, I already gave you a piece of equipment. How do I know it was me? So leveraging AI to be able to do things at scale, because you have so many different drivers all over the place, that enabling to leverage technology to be able to do that is so important. I think the other area where it's going to become more and more prevalent within the businesses is just in the, like I said, with the business intelligence tools, being able to understand what's happening, spotting trends, making recommendations, and when possible, saying, hey, it looks like this is happening in your business. So for example, your customers, this customer is starting to slow pay more and more. You should reach out to them and understand that. Again, would that be in your aging receivables report? Yes, but being able to see it on an invoice level, doing that at scale, and then calling up that customer in advance, or being able to predict future customers that are lowering their year-over-year rentals with you. Okay, hey, when's the last time the sales been reached out to them? What's happening in that relationship with these key accounts? These are things that humans are doing today, but you just can't do it at scale. And AI is definitely well leveraged to be able to do some of those things.
Yeah, those are good examples, Adam. So what I hear you're saying is
Adam, if I
automating
could,
otherwise manual processes, and also AI is great at summarizing information as well. Don, go ahead, jump in.
yeah, I just want to mention about the maintenance records and keeping. Everything's fine until somebody gets hurt. And the first thing when somebody gets hurt is that they want to know the history of that equipment. They want to know who serviced it last, what was the last thing that was done, and all the different steps that it takes to really maintain that equipment. So having those records, and even if it's through AI that makes it better, is very, very valuable when it comes to defending somebody, in a lawsuit or whatever the case may be. If someone gets injured. Adam also liked the fact, and I was going to mention too, about, I call it the rearview mirror effect. How many times do people look back at their customers and say, this guy used to do $100,000 a year with us, and now he's doing 10. So to have that analytics, I guess, to say, to go back and see what business you've lost, I think is just as important about the business that you're gaining along the way. So I think your point is very well taken.
Interesting. Thanks, Don. And you both have spoken about the use of data in reporting, or Don, you mentioned the need to capture data in this case in the form of equipment records. I'm going to ask you both, and we'll start with Don. With this data, what are the real critical metrics that are important to rental business owners or executives? Don, you help them. You help companies get acquired. I would imagine that there are some key metrics that help you in the process to really demonstrate that the business being acquired is a quality business. What are those metrics?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the key ones is the fleet utilization. Let's just use some round numbers. That if a guy has $1 million of equipment and he's doing 250,000 in revenue, obviously his utilization sucks. But if he's got $1 million of equipment and he's doing 600 to 750 of revenue, then obviously he's got tremendous utilization. So buyers out there are not looking for turnaround companies. They're looking for companies that can add accretive earnings immediately to them. And then they're not looking to say, well, we can fix this guy. They want somebody who's profitable, who's got a good customer base, has got a good up-to-date fleet, and that has a good standing in the marketplace. So I think, the fleet utilization is very, very important, and what the mix of products is. In the M&A side, just to interject, nobody seems to want to buy event rental companies or anything if you have 25% of your business in events, that's a very hard sell, quite frankly, unless you got another smaller independent in the same type of business that might want to look at it. But as far as the big consolidators go, just do not contact. So fleet to me is very, very important in the utilization.
Thank you, Don. Adam, how about you? In addition, do you see successful rental companies relying upon or developing a certain set of KPIs or key metrics? What do you think is important?
Yeah, I'd say utilization is at the end of the day the be all end all, both dollar utilizations, what's our return on what we're buying equipment on, as well as your time utilization. How much time is spending in the yard versus out on the customer job sites. I think the more advanced companies are saying, okay, well, what can predict utilization, right? So Don talked about like the rear view mirror. Utilization at the end of the day is a rear view mirror. You may have some reservations in the future, but it's not going to be your full fleet rental out there. So they're looking at things like how fast are we turning over equipment from when it's returned to when it's rentable, right? So I talked about the example where it sits in a yard for 3 days. That's 3 days of lost revenue that you'll never get. Your counter team sees that fleet number as unavailable. The more sophisticated ones understand what the last inspection report is, the likelihood that it's available to be rented, and they're working off that. But the tighter you can make that timeline, the better your sales reps can be out in the market, the better they can say with confidence, yes, I can get you that excavator on Monday. So that'd be the first part there. I'd say the other side is like, do I have the right fleet in the right places? So what are my missed rentals? So customer calls, we're unable to fulfill this. That predicts future demand. Substitutions, hey, I didn't have the right size, didn't have the right type of wheels, whatever, tracks. And then re-rentals. So how much money am I giving to my friendly competitors? All three of these things say, hey, I probably need more of this particular type of equipment. So your utilization is going to be if you have the right equipment in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, super smart. So don't just look at the metric itself, which is in this case utilization, but your point is look at some of the feeders into utilization, like equipment turnaround time. I love that one. That's really important. Don, go ahead. What were you going to add?
Well, the overall management of the fleet. Let's just take a 19-foot scissor lift. If that category of equipment is getting utilized 90%, that tells you that you need more. So it really affects your buying decisions along the way too, with the proper data to go back. Or you may say, we used to rent a lot of these, and it looks like the trend is changing away from that product. So maybe it's time to sell off, have as much invested in a particular category. So the data that can be provided to companies today really, really helps with the overall management of the firm.
For sure. So, we've spoken about the challenges of today's rental companies and some potential solutions or data that they can focus on for improving today. And I'm going to shift it a little bit now and shift it till tomorrow and the future outlook. And I'll start with you, Don. Where do you see, when you look at the industry overall, and you look at equipment rental companies, where do you think the biggest opportunities for growth are in either new business lines or new categories of rental, or how should rental companies be expanding their business?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The industry, if you look at it, has changed from service to solutions. So if you look at all the big guys' websites these days, everything is solutions. And, we never used to see things like storage containers, waste equipment, some fencing equipment. So, when I look to the future a little bit, I see things like roll-off dumpsters, one of the things that is first and last on the job site, just like a portalet is, quite frankly. I even saw the other day that somebody has started a roll-off dumpster franchise that you can get. It's a very fragmented industry. There's dozens of them for sale right now that I'm aware of. And it's just a natural addition to the existing products or solutions that the companies are offering right now. I also look at things like drones that have become so popular. Again, there are independent drone companies right now. There's also a franchise if you want to get into the drone business. But drones have been used in pipeline work for years, real estate to take pictures, and construction sites to check on jobs. So it wouldn't surprise me if at some point rental companies start adding these features or these products, to their portfolio of solutions. I think anything that is used on a job site that a contractor is outsourcing, to me, that's a potential product or solution for a rental company to offer that same contractor. You think about security equipment. Who's to say that they won't be putting cameras around job sites, not only for safety information, but also so that the owner of the project from his office in a New York tower can log in and look at the progress that's going on, on his project. I see more waste and sanitation by some of the companies that don't offer it right now. I even think at some point, and this may sound a little wacky, but I could see rental companies offering equipment with operators as the shortages, of trade personnel, come to the forefront. Years ago, in the last rental company that I had an idea for a company called Construction Equipment Operators. And so the concept was to get a bunch of operators that would use my equipment. Okay, separate corporations for insurance reasons, whatever the case may be. I ran a blind ad in the Southeast, and in 24 hours, I had 85 respondents that were ready to come to wherever I needed them to operate equipment for people, and with good pedigrees too, and a lot of experience along the way. So that's another potential that's out there for revenue for an existing location. A lot of times we hear about the growth of some stores and of some companies, but not often do we hear, but sometimes we do, about the same store sales. It's one thing if you go out and acquire a $50 million company, but what are the rest of the stores doing? Are they growing by 5%, 10%? And a lot of that will happen with more products that are added to their offering. Another thing I think that could happen with all the great fleet management products that companies have available to them now, I could see a rental company going to a contractor who owns some of their equipment and assisting with their fleet management and outsource it to the rental company. So then you've really got a customer who they're renting your equipment, but you're also helping them manage their own equipment that they have. So some of that may seem a little bit far-fetched, but that's kind of some of the things that come to mind when you talk about the future of the industry. And again, whoever thought there'd be a flooring solution that people would be so involved with flooring, there's fence companies for sale. I spent a lot of time researching companies that are for sale in different industries, mainly construction, obviously. And I see just thousands of companies that have the potential to add to and rental companies offering, never used to think about HVAC, and look how big that's gotten. Even REIC is one specialty with HVAC and heating. So specialty companies, are something that private equity people really look at, as well as now some of the bigger rental guys are looking at. Look at the recent yak mat business. Mats have been used in the pipeline industry for ages. I was in the pipeline industry for 5 years. And, soft ground, heavy excavators, mat, gotta have them. And it's like dumb iron. The worst thing that happens is that a board breaks.
Yeah. So those are great ideas, Don. And I think especially your point about looking at more, comprehensively what's on a job site. The statistics and data that I keep on seeing is that, rental is penetrating more and more jobs. It used to be that it was, 10% of jobs had some form of rental equipment, and now I think it's almost half. And so I think, certainly as rental becomes, especially in North America, more an acceptable way of acquiring and using equipment, I think, looking for more expansive categories to serve customers is a great idea. I also love that idea of having an operator there too, because at the end of the day, somebody doesn't want necessarily equipment, but they want to, dig a hole or, put up a building. Adam, same question for you.
Exactly.
When you look out at opportunities, for rental companies and growth and expansion opportunities, what are some areas that you think are of interest that you think rental companies should start to look at?
I'd say the theme is the same as Don's, in that like the rental company really becomes the partner of the contractor or the construction company. And like some of the ways in which they've done this in the past is like, okay, they now start offering, working at heights training, so they can be compliant, because anybody that you rent, your aerial equipment to, they need to have somebody who's trained to be working at heights. So why not provide that service? It gets them in your building, builds a relationship. Again, Don nailed it on the head with providing equipment service for customer-owned fleet as well. We continue to see that with the specialization of equipment. There's not that many people who are specialized in aerial equipment per se. So instead of having a general technician who maybe services all of the construction company's fleet, you have specialists in different areas, and then you want to give them as much fleet as possible to fix both your own and your customers as well. And then the other side of it as well is how can you become that one-stop shop, whether it's they have needs for rental or even small tools, right? So you see more and more rental companies having the dealers for steel or Husqvarna, like the small stuff, even DeWalt, getting that stuff on the job site. The contractors are buying it anyways. Why not continue to leverage that relationship you have and get that margin flowing through your business as well? So I think it's really that partnership, and then really spending time understanding your customers. Don talked about maybe some types of equipment used to be more popular, and then new types of equipment started replacing it. We're still early in the electrification of heavy equipment, but you're seeing that for different use cases. Obviously, mining is getting more and more of it, or anytime you're working in closed spaces, you want more electrical stuff. And then continuing to see, okay, what's working, what's not. But really the best rental companies doing a little bit of experimentation. First talking to customers and saying, hey, what do you think your needs are going to be in the future? What do you think about this new equipment? You have use cases for it, and then getting a little bit of it and seeing how it rents, and then doubling down on what's working.
Good thoughts, Adam. And we have 1 minute here, and you all have provided so much information. And I want to at least get in one question from the audience. So, Don, real quick, in less than in 30 seconds, we have one question here: is how important is customer service in the rental industry, and what are some improvements companies can make there?
It's the number one. Service. I think the technology is really going to help with that a lot, with GPS and knowing exactly where products are, how many hours are on them, try to do preventive maintenance so that they don't, in fact, break down. I think those are the keys to keeping a customer and the longevity. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're right about at time here. I want to thank Don Charbonnet and Adam. Learn more about Don at Charbonnet Consulting, and clearly a guru in running successful equipment rental companies, and has done much of that himself. And Adam, thank you for all your wisdom and guidance and innovation and your thoughts about the application of technology to the industry. And thanks everybody for another session of the Texada's Fireside Chats over this summer. And we can't wait to see you in the next one. And if anybody happens to be in San Antonio in early October, come join us at the Texada User Conference, Equipped 24. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it. Good to be with you, Adam.
Thank you.